Back in July this year, my friends and I traveled to eastern Washington to backpack in the fabled Enchantments. The 8 of us flew into Seattle, picked up our rental cars, and drove to Leavenworth, where we camped at the 8-mile campground. Here's how the adventure went.
Yeah, I hope there's not too many mosquitoes where we go.
Yeah.
Sounds like there will be though. Do you guys get like big ass bite marks?
Big ass bite marks.
Oh my god, this is so bad right here.
You make me want to put on my jacket again.
That was just so giant.
Oh my god, dude.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I thought I was sensitive.
Holy shit.
Good morning. It is about 8:30 and we just reached the Snow Creek trailhead. So last night we camped at the 8-mile campground and then drove 5 minutes to this trailhead, Snow Creek trailhead. And then today we're going to be hiking along the snow zone and then setting up camp somewhere in snow around Snow Lakes. And then from there we're going to do a bunch of day hikes. Hopefully Asgard Pass and I think little Annapurna, maybe Prusik Peak or the temple. We'll see. Oh, and yesterday I had the Colchuck wheat, raspberry wheat at a beer garden. It's going to be hard. Happy birthday to you. Woo!
Dude, there's like sweat going into my eyes. Oh man, I'm so sweaty.
Yeah. Okay, now the hike starts. I'm just kidding. No one laughed. Hey, Sai. Raymond emerges from the woods. After a couple miles of hiking up a steady incline in the hot sun, we found a nice shady spot by a creek.
4 days though.
We decided to break for an early lunch where I sat next to this tree. It was oozing with so much sap it looked like a candle dripping with wax. We ate lunch and splashed our sweaty faces with water from the creek. Full and refreshed, we continued trekking up towards Snow Lake.
Remind me of all those rocky hikes, like Mount Tala.
Yeah.
When what else?
Inca Trail? It's a little different though.
I mean, a lot of you send me one of those too.
We reached Snow Lake in the afternoon, and right after crossing the dam holding up these dead logs, we found a nice campsite. However, the lake views came at a great cost. We were immediately plagued with mosquitoes and got bit like mad. Not pictured here is Tiffany, who received a crown of bites across her forehead, and Chris, whose back featured over 30 mosquito bites.
What is it?
It's a giant deer. With antlers.
Misha.
Antler. Deer. We had a little visitor at our campsite on the second morning of our trip. The deer was grazing casually just 10 feet from our tents. He wandered off after several minutes and we started preparing breakfast. We had a pretty leisurely morning, but finally got ready for our day hike to Little Annapurna.
There's a lot of mosquitoes here.
There are a hell of mosquitoes here. Let's go.
What are we doing today? So we're gonna pass by Prusik Peak and then on our way to Little Annapurna.
How far is it?
Little Annapurna?
Yeah.
It'll be 10 miles round trip. 10 or 12.
Okay. I didn't get any footage from the night before, but I had a great time despite what was probably the worst mosquito swarm I've ever been in. The mosquitoes were relentless, and we weren't allowed to make a fire in this particular zone of the Enchantments. But we made do by slathering ourselves in DEET and wearing our rain jackets. Since we made camp in the late afternoon, we had plenty of time to chill after. After cooking dinner, we played a couple games of Resistance, the board game that Raymond hiked up. We also hiked up a couple bottles of wine and whiskey, and it was a nice little luxury to be sipping on it as we accused each other of being spies against the Resistance. Finally, we decided to escape from the mosquito cloud, hung up our food, and then retreated to our tents for the night. On the way up to Little Annapurna, the trail hugged the edge of a waterfall. Witnessing the power of water never ceases to amaze me. Sadly, this was the last shot I took with my shiny new iPhone before I accidentally dropped it and the screen cracked. Not too long after the waterfall, we had our first mountain goat sighting, and to our delight, a kid popped out from behind its mother.
Oh, it's a family. Oh. Wait, there's only two, right? Or is there a third one?
After a long climb up the mountain, we reached Vivian Lake. It boasted crystal clear waters, a backdrop of the impressive Prusik Peak, and an incredible view over Snow Lake. All along the hike, we saw little tufts of white gopher caught in branches. Some of the goats we came across had started shedding and had bare necks. I wish I had gotten photos of them because they looked like they were wearing fur sweaters.
Oh, now I'm getting high again.
It's getting hot in here. I am so hot. So there's Snow Lake. I think we are camped right there. And there's good camping spots there. I think some along the side of the lake as well. But the ones on this side are smaller. There's some pretty big group sites right there in between both lakes.
I didn't skip at all.
It was getting late in the day, and we realized we wouldn't be able to make it to Little Annapurna. So we decided to try to find Prusik Peak. Unfortunately, we found out from some climbers that Prusik Peak required some technical climbing with ropes, so we carried onwards towards Perfection Lake. On the way was a gorgeous landscape of larches, gurgling streams, and bright wildflowers growing on the mossy banks. It felt like we had suddenly stepped into a fairy tale. We were in the core zone of the Enchantments, and I was really starting to understand why this place was so hyped up.
All these little larches and little streams, waterfalls. Yeah. It's incredible.
We had reached Perfection Lake, and it was absolutely breathtaking. The expansive lake was encircled with snow-covered granite, and the water sparkled in the sun like diamonds. It was about 5 o'clock at this point, and as much as we wanted to continue deeper into the fairy tale, we had passed our turn back time by quite a bit already. We hiked down and made it back to our campsite before sundown. The next morning, several of us woke up at the crack of dawn to catch the morning glow. The rising sun lit the mountains up in a blazing glory of pink and orange. I drank my morning coffee as I watched the mountains bathed in the light by Snow Lake. The night before, we had a group discussion of what to do for the next couple days. We decided that instead of doing another day hike along what would be nearly the same path, we would do a through hike to Colchuck Lake. We got an earlier start and made a vigorous run up to Vivian Lake. Soon enough, we were back in the core zone with its picturesque streams and purple shooting stars. Walking into this valley seriously feels like you're walking into a fairy tale. We made a lunch stop at Perfection Lake where I took a quick dip.
Okay, Michelle.
I go now?
Nice knowing you.
Oh boy. Luck. Oh boy. Oh god.
It was freezing. Unfortunately, my moleskin fell off into the lake. It took me a couple minutes to muster the courage to jump back in, but I did it and was able to retrieve it.
It sounded like it hurt.
Ready, Michelle? Towel?
It's so cold, that feels like warm out here.
After a couple snow passings, we made it to the base of Little Annapurna.
Whoa!
We took off our bags to go appreciate the sprawling views of the valley and lakes below.
I need to go pee again. Jesus. Oh, look at the colors on that rock. Wow.
A mountain goat started beelining towards our bags, probably sensing the buttloads of sweat our packs had absorbed.
Wow, it's going right. It's going right towards it.
We guarded our backpacks and the goat sidled past us. It looked pretty chill, but we tried to keep our distance as they can get aggressive,
Whoa!
and their horns are no joke.
It's like confused now. It's
fine.
yeah. Damn, how to climb up this thing? Damn, I wish I.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
That's awesome.
Like 1, 2.
Sweet. I'm glad we came
So
up
many
here.
lakes up here.
I like this
Red succulent.
Those are succulents?
Yeah.
Oh. So perfect with red.
Yeah, it kind of looks like rust on the rocks.
Oh, they're like little, oh my god! Huh. They look like fruits.
You look magnificent. Quick tip, if you ever do come to the Enchantments, make sure to pee on the rocks. If you pee on the vegetation, the goats will actually rip it up to try to get to the salt in your urine. Yeah, this is beautiful. At last, we reached Asgard Pass, and it was spectacular. The pass overlooked Colchuck Lake, and we could see Dragon's Ridge on the left. We decided to break for an early dinner and got to enjoy the amazing view for a while longer. I didn't get any footage of this, but I randomly ran into an old college friend of mine that I hadn't seen for at least 8 years. It was pretty awesome. Life is funny that way sometimes.
Be careful! Oh my god, my heart just like left out.
After packing up, we started the trek down. The descent was unexpectedly brutal and ended up taking us 2 or 3 hours. It was rather treacherous climbing down the steep rock scramble with full packs, especially after having hiked for 10 or so miles up the mountain. Luckily, no one was injured and we made it down to Colchuck Lake as the sun was setting. I'm not gonna lie, the last several miles of the hike were pretty crazy. We finally made it to the parking lot at 1:30 a.m., where we found our friends Chris and Jean waiting for us. It's hard to describe how I felt at that moment, but just imagine hiking 15 hours with full packs, climbing down a steep slope of rocks thinking you're about to eat shit every couple minutes, realizing that you're going to be very, very late as the sun sets, taking a wrong turn and then losing the trail in the middle of the night, and then finally arriving at the parking lot to find that your friends had not only waited 3 hours for you, but they had brought pizza.
That tree reminds me of Chris's bat.
I see female genitalia everywhere I look.